Okay, let's go ahead and get started, folks. We'll probably have some stragglers come in, but this is a good amount of folks to start with. So welcome all. My name is Hannah Morell. I'm with yourworthcoach.com and Pacific Stoa Financial Coaching. I'm a holistic financial coach. We are doing a class today on why budgets are hard to keep, and we are recording. So this is a hybrid class. Most of the time, these monthly classes are a trainer-trainer class, so meant to be for the people who are serving others, and that's okay. But today we're doing it as a hybrid class, so whether you're here for your own development and education, or you're here to help those you serve, my hope is that you'll take something away from this. This is definitely, you're gonna, when we get to the slides, this is aimed towards you as a human being. So, but this is a hybrid class. Let me do real quickly. I'll do our land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgements are important because it acknowledges that we are all on native land. So I am on Kalapuya land right now. I am grateful that I am able to live, work, and learn on their land. Little housekeeping thing. I do like it. This gets real boring if it's just me talking the whole time. So I'm going to encourage you to put your cameras on, but you don't have to. And I will encourage you that if you have a question, that you just interrupt me and ask your question, or if you have a comment. So I'm going to talk for a little bit here about, there's Robin. I'm going to talk for a few minutes, and I'm not going to stop talking until somebody interrupts me. So I don't know if some of you know that, welcome, Robin. We're doing the interruption part now, that I am actually a tour guide on a submarine up in Portland. So every 2 weeks I go up to Portland, and seriously, I'm going to keep talking for the entire 90 minutes until somebody interrupts me. I do tour guides on this diesel electric submarine. It's quite fun. I usually have some little kids on board, and little kids always ask amazing questions like, what happens if somebody dies? I'm going to keep talking. Somebody needs to interrupt me. I'm seriously going to keep going. So I was leading a tour this one time. I was on the outside. I was on the dock, and this flock of geese flew over the top, and they were honking. And I don't know why, but my little brain decided that that was terrifying. So I jumped, and I said, "It sounds like clowns are attacking us. Nobody's gonna interrupt."
Anna, is that the
Yeah.
OMSI submarine or is
That
it a
that is
different?
the OMSI, Chloe. Yeah, very good. So did you see Chloe kind of interrupted me? And did Chloe die? No,
Didn't die.
didn't die. So please interrupt, please interject. This is your class, and it's important that if this class needs to take another pathway, then that's what we do.
Sad,
So
sad.
perhaps hi, Michaela. Okay. For those of you that are clients, I am going to maintain your confidentiality, but you are welcome to share if you are a client. I'm not going to do that for you. That's just part of my agreement with you. Confidentiality goes one direction. So what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to do introductions. I'd like you to say your name, and then I'd like you to answer this question. You say your name, and then so I'm Hannah, and the reason that I think people don't keep with budgets is because they're dumb. People are dumb. So that's not really what I think, but I'd like you to say your name and then why you think people can't keep with a budget. And then you pick the next person to talk. And hopefully please pick somebody that you don't already know. So I'm going to pick Maria. Maria, can you tell us who you are and why you think people can't keep with a budget? Oh, Maria is joining in another mess. Maybe I'll pick somebody out. How about Brianna?
Hello. And
Hi.
the question was, so my name is Brianna. The question was, why don't people keep budgets that I think?
Yep. Why do you think people don't keep with budgets?
I think it's because it's so overwhelming considering like nowadays like what our prices are for just like basic needs. I feel like people
Yeah.
just get so overwhelmed that they're not focusing on like what needs to be saved and what needs to be put out because it's so expensive nowadays.
Yeah. All right, who's the next person to talk, Brianna?
Let's see. Hazel?
Good morning.
Morning.
Uh, my name is Hazel. Um, all I can say for me is the reason why I don't keep a budget is I have someone that does it for me.
Uh-huh.
And that's it. I'll go ahead and pick on Maria.
Did we get Maria? I don't know if we even have two Marias. Maria, which
Oh,
Maria are you? Yeah, go ahead. We've got two, but I think
okay.
it's the same Maria. Maria, are you able to talk?
Do you hear me?
I do.
Yeah, I was on my phone on the, but I couldn't hear anything. And now I'm at home and I am on my computer, but I don't know what was the topic.
Oh, okay. No worries. The question was, why do you think people don't keep with budgets?
Uh, like in my mind now, I think because sometimes uh, budget it's kind of hard for people if you have less money than your needs are. That is
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to keep it. But if you prioritize, like you need to buy something uh, you need like first, that will be,
Yep.
yeah, because sometimes like women, they can buy something that can wait.
That's true for all people. Who's going to talk next, Maria?
I can look here, but I don't know who ordered it. How about Michaela
Okay.
Canterbury?
Hi, my name.
Okay, Michaela.
Yep. Oh wait, which?
We have
So
two Michaelas. We have
okay.
Michaela Canterbury and Michaela Carlson. Let's go. Let's go with Michaela Canterbury.
Hi, Hannah. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Oh yeah.
So, hi, I'm Michaela Canterbury. It's nice to see another Michaela in the room. Uh, so, why I think people can't keep budgets is just there's this inability to forecast what and there's this fluctuation in expenses and prices and just life events. So
Mhm.
being able to, uh, what the price of gas is going to be next week, or healthcare or travel expenses and things like that. So, and like I think another person said, it then becomes so overwhelming because there's these unknown factors. So,
Agreed.
that's
Perfect.
why I think people just give up because there's such great fluctuation and volatility in so many expenses that are just to the core of who we are.
I agree. Michaela Canterbury, go ahead and pick who goes next.
Well, I'm going to pick Michaela Carlson.
Solidarity for the Michaelas.
Woo-hoo! Michaela power.
My name is Michaela Carlson, and I mean, I don't know why other people have trouble. The reason that I've had trouble sticking to a budget is when I have tried to do that in the past, it was also combined with me trying to spend less money, and I just wasn't able to. So I wasn't really making a budget that was based on what I actually spend. It was based on what I wanted to be spending, and I wasn't able to scale down my spending.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Um,
Michaela, go ahead. Go ahead and pick the next person who talks.
already spoken?
Huh?
Is Candace already spoken?
No, she has not.
I'll pass it over
You're
to
up,
you.
Candace.
Good morning. So, pardon the noise. Okay. I have a feeling that competing priorities, like not having fun, not buying stuff just so you can pay electricity, and also well, if I get a little closer to the edge, it's okay. But
Mm,
yeah, I won't tip off. You know, magical thinking.
Yeah.
And competing priorities about, well, I really need hair dye, but my cats need insurance.
yeah.
Just
Good.
competing priorities.
Love it. Candace, do you want to choose Janine, Chloe, or Robin?
I like the name Robin. Chloe
Okay.
and Janine are fine names too, but let's go with Robin.
Okay, Robin.
Hello, I'm Robin, and I think that one of the reasons I have struggled with a budget can be summed up in one word, and that's impulsivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like people buy things on impulse, and sometimes that can greatly affect a budget.
Very true. Robin, would you like to choose Janine or Chloe?
Well, you said to pick somebody that I don't know, so I'll pick Janine.
I know. I think, okay. Go ahead, Janine.
Hi everyone, my name is Janine. So it's hard to keep the budget for me because it's like I want to have like many things. So I like to do like online shopping. So it's hard for me like to keep
Yeah.
my budget. Yeah.
Yeah. We want to do things. Yes, we do. We don't like to be restricted. Janine, would you like to choose Chloe or would you like to
Yeah,
choose
let's go
Chloe?
with Chloe. Chloe, yeah.
Chloe.
Good morning. I think for me, my name is Chloe Timmons. I think budgets can be challenging because I think a lot of it comes down to tracking, at least for me personally, and that takes a lot of time. And so it can be hard to find the time in the day to track budgeting on top of all of the other things and to make sure that things are on track or like realign things or readjust. I know someone said expenses and costs are changing all the time. So that like consistent readjustment can be challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to just let it all go.
It is. If things get too hard, then we just stop doing them. It's not a personality defect. It's part of being a human being. So let's pop over to some slides here. Don't forget, you're always welcome to interrupt because now you're just little postage stamps for me. So yeah, we're talking today about why budgets are so hard to keep. We're not going to be talking necessarily about how to make budgets. That will be next month. We'll dig deeply into that next month. So the purpose of today's class is to dig into why traditional budgets are hard to keep up with, and to reframe how we think about budgeting, and learn the first two steps, at least one of the first two steps, depending on our time, of how to create a budget the right way, a budget that we can keep with. I will be sending out the recording and some other extra stuff by the end of today, hopefully. So you will have the recording available to you. All right, so let's say you are teaching a class. You're teaching a budgeting class, and you are so the budget that you're going to be teaching, this is a pre-made budget. So it's a prescriptive budget. It says things like spend 20% of your income on housing and 15% of your income on food. I don't know. It's basically been made by world-class economists, and if everybody in the country follows this, we're all going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. So this is a system that has been made by people who know what they're talking about. Your students are bright and highly motivated. They're serious about a budget changing their life, and you are a fantastic presenter. You're funny and you're smart and you relate to your students well. So let's say you have 100 students in your class and you teach them this pre-made budget and you check in at the 1 month mark. How many of your students do you think are reporting that they're still keeping with their budget?
%90%.
90% says Candace. Michaela Carlson says none. It's right in the middle, guys.
60%.
How many? 60%. It's like 50%. So it's about 50% at the 1 month mark. And I want to say that the way I said that again, I said, how many of your students do you think are reporting that they're keeping with the budget? So this is at the 1 month mark. That's pretty darn close, 50%. How many do you think are keeping with it after a year? Michaela Carlson says none again. What do you guys think?
10%.
Hazel says 25. Chloe, go ahead. Yeah. Well, it's none. At the 1 year mark, nobody is keeping with this budget. So we're going to look at this from the top down. From the teacher's perspective, where's the problem? There's 3 variables. There's you, the teacher, there's your students, and there is the budget, the system itself. Where is the problem? Well, that's good. So Michaela Carlson's asking for clarification. Does the budget have pre-filled in amounts? Amounts, no, but percentages, yes. So 20% this, 10% this, 5% that. So where do you folks think the problem is here?
I think it's in the whole concept, like the system, because like one budget doesn't fit everybody's needs.
Precisely. And Michaela said it in chat as well. Michaela Canterbury says not regularly revisiting. We can't plug and play these things. So we know from looking from the top down, if we have 100% failure rate, the problem is the budget itself, the system that we're teaching. If some of your pupils weren't motivated or smart enough, right? Some of them at least would have kept with it. If they didn't like the shirt you were wearing, or they didn't like you as a presenter, they thought your jokes were dumb, then at least some of them would have kept with it. But 100% failure rate, which is pretty exceptional, means that the weak point is the budget. But let's go talk to each one of those 100 people. Where do they think the problem is? Chloe, I didn't quite hear you. What was that?
Themselves.
They do. Every single one of them thinks that they're the problem, right? I'm the failure, right? And so how likely do you think they'll be to ever try this again? Not very likely, right? What's the point of going on? Someone just said it, right? Like if it sucks long enough, we're just going to stop doing it. So yes. So the problem with the pre-made budgets is that they're not personalized. And you guys just said this, and this is brilliant, right? And they can't all be right. You right this second could go Google best budgeting system, and you're going to get 6 dozen of them, right? Some of those will be free, but they can't all be right. They are overly simplistic. They do not take into account how messy and wonderful and chaotic your life is and how it changes. And they assume that every month of our lives is the same until the end of time. And that is absolutely not the case. June looks very different than December for most people. So these overly simplistic pre-made budgets do not account for just month-to-month change, which gives us ample opportunities for failure, right? Because it looks like everybody else is doing it. I mean, it looks like everybody else has their stuff together. They probably don't, but we begin to register that as a failure, like I'm not doing it right. Here's this super simple budget that's been made by whatever economists, and I can't keep with it. What's wrong with me? So that's the message we end up getting. We expect these pre-made budgets to provide us with prioritization. Heard about prioritization when you guys were talking. Perfect. And structure, and they give us inflexibility and failure. So that's one type of it. We're going to talk about 3 kinds of budgeting systems. That the pre-made budget's the first one, and this second one is what I call the freestyle budget. This is not a budgeting system. This is more like it's typically a reaction to the first one. So here we have Miss J saying, I'm going to check my bank account. I'm guessing I should probably have about $200 left, and there's $3.62. that's what comes out of the freestyle budgeting system. So whether it's little things like snacks or big things like down payments, freestyling it on our budgeting means that we treat each situation separately. This little situation, just this one lunch, just this one vacation trip, right? And this detaches a spending choice from our normal spending, quote unquote normal spending. And we're using the term framing here, not in the psychological way, but in the behavioral economics way. Framing takes a choice that we're making and it puts a little frame around it. It says, this one is special. This is not part of my normal spending. Although all of your spending is normal spending. If you buy exactly one solid gold toilet in your life, that is part of your normal spending. This is like crash dieting for your finances. So essentially you can, I've seen people restrict themselves and pull out all the stops and pull together a down payment for a house in 6 months, right? It is just not sustainable. And this is the most common spending mindset. And here's how it sounds. Here's what I hear. It's just this once, it's not going to make a difference. It's just this one lunch out. It's just this one vacation. It's just this once, it's not going to make a difference, right? It's outside, everything is outside of my normal spending. After a while, that is what your normal spending looks like. The problem with it is these are reactive, right? We're always behind the 8 ball. And it does not allow for looking into the future. So if we are constantly focused on the right now, that makes looking into the future harder than it already is. And our brains are already not great about thinking about the future. So freestyling it, which is where most people are, makes it difficult to plan ahead. It is stressful and exhausting because all spending feels prohibited. And of course, if you're doing this freestyle budgeting mindset, there's so many things that can come out of left field at you. Sometimes these are good things like opportunities. Sometimes these are bad things like hot water heaters blowing up and flooding wherever you are. We expect freestyling it to be easy. And what it gives us, unfortunately, is uncertainty, avoidance, and crisis. So these two, that prescriptive pre-made budget and the freestyle budget, people tend to toggle back and forth between these two. And we kind of get stuck in this loop. And eventually we just stop trying on the pre-made prescriptive budget. And we just like, I guess this is my life, right? We just get stuck here at the freestyle budgeting. So what actually works? Is there any other options? And of course, my answer is yes, of course, there are other options. So let's talk about, we're going to, when I'm working with clients, I'll say Ford Motor Company, but I'm trying not to do that. So large international car company, let's say large car company. Large car company has departments, right? They have an IT department and a manufacturing department and a facilities department and a whole bunch of other departments that I don't know anything about how the inside of a car company works. So this is me pretending like I do. So each one of these departments has a job. And we're going to pick on HR and marketing. So let's say every 2 years, large car company gives each department a chunk of money with which to do their job. So they gave human resources a chunk of money and marketing a chunk of money. And this is your job. This is your money for 2 years. Let's say it's 11 months in and human resources comes to marketing and says, hello, marketing. You look very nice today. I like your shirt. But we've run out of money. Can I have some of your marketing money for human resources stuff? What do you think marketing would say to human resources?
No,
I'm just going to sit here and drink. No, thank you. That's very polite, Brianna. Michaela Carlson says it might say, sure. Go pants in. Michaela Canterbury, look what I have over here. That was a weird little, yeah. Brianna said it very politely, but probably not. Yeah, Janine says no. They're not going to, right? And it makes perfect sense. So like human resources could make this case. Look, we are all in service of big motor company, big car company. So it doesn't matter who spends the money, right? Does it matter who spends the money? Which department?
Yes,
It
because if HR is trying to get more people and marketing is trying to get HR is trying to get more people to do the job, and marketing is trying to get more people to buy the cars. If HR, blah blah blah, but if HR is not getting enough people to build the vehicles or whatever, then it doesn't matter how many customers you have. And that would be probably HR's argument.
probably, but it still doesn't matter, right? Because each of these departments was given a set amount of money with which to do their job. And let's say human resources didn't do that job correctly, or they need to, if they actually do need more money, they shouldn't be asking marketing for it, right? So yeah, marketing is going to tell them to pack sand, do your job, right? There's probably a system in place, but begging off of stealing from another department is probably not the right solution. Which leads us to what's called a zero-based budget. And that is what large companies and government bodies have been using for decades. Departments, each of those departments' job is to spend down to their their $0. That's why it's called a zero-based budget. And I'm sure that like whatever organization you're working under, it has departments. So we have a really good model for zero-based budgets all over, right? We can see it in the work, like usually the organizations, like my little business has departments. It's just still me, but I'm the department head of all of them, but I have set distinct departments. Yeah, it's been used by corporations and private sectors for decades, probably actually since before the 1970s. So from looking from the top, if you're the CEO or the CFO, you can look at all of these departments and you can kind of tell how things are going at any point in time. Like you can see like who's spent all their money in 11 months and who has too much money left over, right? So you can actually quickly and sort of easily evaluate a fairly complex system. It is easy to evaluate redundancies and unnecessary spending. That's why, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you're given $6 million to do your department's job and you only spend one, this is where I'll get off on track talking about restriction. So let's say your department, whatever that is in your brain, was given $6 million, but at the end of your 2 years, you come back and say, you know what, I thought maybe I should save some. So I only spent $1 million. Do you think you'd keep your job? Chloe says no. What? Why not?
No.
No, why not?
Because you've proven that you're misunderstanding what the priorities of the company are, and tell you what, let us take care of the saving part. We gave you that number because we had a reason. You need to fulfill all that hiring or whatever it is.
Whatever it is, right? Whatever the job is, right? So this is the difference, and you're going to hear me talk about this, between restricted spending and expected spending. Using something like a scaffold like the zero-based budget, this is expected spending. We spend a lot of our time, especially in the first two kind of budgeting systems that we talked about, restricting our spending. And expected spending works way, way better. It's way easier to plan when we are doing expected spending. A zero-based budget, especially for a bigger company, can result in bloat as each department tries to spend down its allotment on dubious expenses. Like they're buying really dumb stuff at the end of that 2 years just to spend it down. And the bigger the entity is and the longer the time frame, the slower the pivot will be. So we saw this a lot in the pandemic. Like companies at a certain size really didn't pivot very quickly because they have this gigantic money machine that does not usually, unless they intentionally built flexibility into it, and we will talk about this, that doesn't pivot very well. So they couldn't like reallocate things very quickly. Fortunately, your personal budgeting and household life is not a gigantic corporation. So, all right, let's take a look at large car company. And we're going to take the 2-year spending plan budget, zero-based budget from 1985, 1996. I don't know if anybody else remembers this, but I do. This was like yesterday for me. That hair, that's lit. That is amazing. And the mullet thing going on. Wow. Okay, 95, 80, 85, 86. So let's say I'm going to take that exact set of expectations. So if Big Motor Company was expected to spend $10 million on raw materials in 85, 86, we're going to give that exact same plan, everything, to the exact same car company in you can tell when I made these slides, 2020, 2021. So if they were expected to spend $10 million on raw materials and $7 million on print advertising, everything is expected everything is exactly the same. I'm not saying anything right today. Expectation wise so we're taking an I'll try again. You're taking the expectation, the budget from 85, 86, and we're going to give it to the exact same car company, 2020, 2021. How do you think that would work? Chloe says no. Why, Chloe? Why wouldn't it work?
The cost of things have gone up.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna, the money isn't gonna buy the same amount of things now.
Right. Exactly. It like everything, literally everything has changed. The cost of different circumstances. Yeah, Michaela Canterbury says different. It's Michaela Carlson says it's going to work poorly. It might kind of limp along. Everything has changed. The price of everything has changed down to like the dollar amount that we pay somebody per hour, and like advertising has changed, and travel, how we move around the world has changed. Everything has changed. So let's take a slightly different. Oh, go back. So what they're doing is something called iterative development, so that every time they change this, it probably didn't look too different, right? So 85, 86 probably didn't look too different from 87, 88, right? But you go 35 years later, and that's a huge, huge difference. So this system, while this is a system of expectations, has to change over time. Okay, similar situation. We're going to take the exact same expectations from big car company from, let's say now, so I don't have to read the numbers, from right now, and we're going to give it to that really big city close to you, right? So we're going to take that exact expectation from the car company, and we're going to imprint it and have that same expectation for that really big city close to you. How do you think that would work? Okay, I'm just going to drink tea until somebody says something. Oh, Michaela Carlson says it could sort of work. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it might kind of work. Any other thoughts? Why wouldn't it work? Great. Because everything is also entity specific. Oh, Michaela Canterbury says, ask the question again. Michaela, we're taking the expectations. We're taking the expectations from the car company and we're placing it onto a city. Michaela Carlson says it would work better than a budget from another time. Probably. Not work, different value, says Janine. Yeah. Like each of these entities has another purpose, right? The purpose of the car company is, different priorities, missions, right? The car company has its purpose is to sell cars, and that big city close to you, its job is to, I don't know, provide streets that don't have potholes. I don't know if that's not a great example. So yeah, everything is not only time specific, but it is also entity specific. So as you are building a budget that fits your life, you could take somebody with the exact same demographics as you, and their budgets would look very, very different because you have different priorities and different likes and dislikes, right? So it will work a little bit better, says Maria. Thank you, Maria. Let's see. Let's check the time and let's do a break. Let's do a 5-minute break. Let's come back in 5. And we will carry on from here. Barbara and Rughutt. Barbara and Rughutt, I saw you pop in. I just wanted to welcome you. We're about halfway through. Sorry, we're kind of just jumping right in here. Okay, folks, one more minute. Okay, let's get going. Give me a sign of life as you come in. Do a thumbs up or say hi in the chat or something. So just let me know that you're here. Hi, Michaela Canterbury.
I'm
Hi,
here.
Maria. Hi, Brianna. Hi, Candace. All righty. Thank you, Rutgad. So let's get started. What's something that you need clarification on before we move on? Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Barbara. If you've registered, Barbara, I'm going to be sending out recordings at some point today. Chloe, hi. Did you need something? Do you need clarification? Would you tell me if you did? Okay, good. All right. What's something so far that has surprised you about what we've talked about? Okay. All righty, let's go. Let's go back 2 slides. Okay, let's do a thought experiment. In your pocket, wallet, purse. Wow, I about messed those words up for some reason. All right, who's in chat? Michaela Canterbury says, is this a surprise or something that you need clarification on? Michaela Canterbury says the surprise is the concept of expecting spending is acceptable. Yeah, it's awesome. Expected spending is exactly where we want to be. And Candace says that it isn't your fault. Right. You can only use the tools we've been given, and we haven't been given great tools for this as a people. So yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Michaela. So in your wallet, purse, pocket, whatever, you have some cash. You have at least $10 in cash, and you have a ticket that you purchased for $10 to go to a movie tonight. It's for this one movie, and it's not refundable. Oops, let's back up. I went too fast. So for some reason, like as you're headed to the movie, you lose that ticket, that $10, that ticket that you paid $10 for to go see the movie. Would you still go see the movie? You've got cash in your pocket. You could easily go buy another $10 ticket. Would you still go see the movie? Kayla Canterbury says it depends. Ragad says yes. Hazel says no. Barbara says yes. Brianna says yes. Oh, I bet we're going to get it right on. Depends on how badly you want to see the movie and what else I needed the other $10 for. Chloe says, yeah. So they did a poll, and I'll have a link to the poll at the very, very end. But about 46% of people said yes, they would spend another $10 and go see the movie. All right, similar situation. You've got that cash in your pocket, but one of those $10 bills you had marked in your head was for cash for the movie, and you lose that $10 bill, but you still have other cash in your pocket. Do you still go watch the movie? Hazel says no. Janine says no.
Can you ask the question again?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I'm sorry. So you have cash in your pocket, and 10 of those dollars you had already kind of been like, I'm going to go watch the movie. I have cash in my pocket, but you lose that $10, but you still have other money in your pocket. You have plenty to go to this movie. You lose the $10 the $10 bill that you said you were going to use to go to the movies. do you still go to the movies? Depends on how interesting the movie is. Yeah. Michaela says it depends. Maria says it depends. When they did the same poll, they found that 88 people said yes if it was a $10 bill. Right? So the economists, who are not real people, they look at this and they said, okay, well, it's $10 and $10, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? The ticket costs $10 and it's $10. It's the same value. And so the economists say humans don't spend logically. And we're like, cool, thanks, man. That doesn't help at all, right? That's right. Like, because economists aren't like, they're not humans. They're so hyper logical. So, but clearly to our brains, there's a difference, and the difference is called fungibility. Fungibility, actually, when I made this, like we were talking a little bit about EFTs, but an EFT is an NFT. Sorry, that's a different thing. An NFT, which we talk about a lot with Bitcoin and things. Then NFT is a non-fungible token, and this is that middle word, fungibility. There is an economics definition of this that we're not going to go into because it's boring and awful. Fungibility just means the interchangeability of goods. My grandmother told a story once that she had a sack of corn, like a fabric sack of corn that they'd harvested, and she took that, she put it in the back seat of the car, and she drove to the gas station, and she said, give me as much gas as, is that corn is worth to you. And the guy was like, just, I eyeballed it. That looks like about enough. So that was the interchangeability of goods. We can call this bartering too. It used to be in our world that lots of things in our lives were interchangeable. Goods were interchangeable like that. She could have taken that same sack of corn and traded it to the neighbor for milk, right? She could have planted the corn. They could have eaten the corn, all sorts of things. So lots of things used to be interchangeable, and that's what fungibility is. Now, in our modern world, money, cash, or like electronic money, is basically the only widely fungible good. Well, the widely fungible good is not the right word. The most widely fungible thingy is money. So there is a difference to us because that ticket was not fungible. The cash was. Right? Fungible, not fungible. So am I talking about fungibility? This is important. I'm going somewhere with this. Hang in there with me. So let's talk about another behavioral economics concept called mental accounting. And your brain is already good at this. And this is another reason why economists think that we're not logical. Mental accounting is a shortcut that our brains take to make it easier to keep track of everything. Go back to big car company. There isn't one guy who's sitting in a basement office writing checks all day. Today he's writing right now he's writing a payroll check, and then he's writing a check for steel, and now he's writing a check for internet advertising, right? If that was the case, that's an opportunity for error, and two, that's really, really, really hard to keep track of. So our brains naturally like to chunk up, in our case, money, and give it a job. That's essentially all mental accounting is. Money is given a job. There's a dark side and a light side to this. The dark side is that we give money a job based on where it comes from. So I'm sure you've had somebody in your life where they treat their regular income one way, they treat like the stimulus check another way, the credit card balance is treated another way, like we get a refund at the end of the year, it's free money, right? So that is mental accounting with where the money came from. And that is where we get ourselves into some trouble. Like to the car company, it doesn't matter. Still understanding why that is bad. Which is bad, Michaela Carlson?
I'm eating lunch. I'm still not understanding why it's a bad idea to think of your money differently depending on where it comes from instead of where it's going. I mean, maybe that's the entire presentation today, so I should just wait. But I know you've explained this to me already, but I'm still not getting it. So
because we make different decisions based on where it's coming from. And we can because we begin to class money in a different way. So let's say we have a whole section of our income that's fun money, free money that we don't have any accountability towards, or we don't have any plan for. That can be a problem. So it's an attempt to give money a job, but it gets messy fast because we will invariably have some of that be unstructured money, and that's a bit dangerous. Did that help at all, or not so much? Not so much.
So your answer is it's just better for there to be 100% structure for all money that comes in.
Yeah, we're going to give it a job based on where it's going. That's the next thing we're talking about. So what happens is, as I'm working with folks, and thank you, Michaela, as we're working on giving money a job based on where it's going to, that instinct to give it a job based on where it came from tends to fall off, because this is giving money a job based on where it's going, what you're using it for, is vastly more efficient. And the reason we don't sometimes is because we feel like that's going to get restrictive. So okay, regular income treated one way, credit card balance treated another, that kind of a thing. And of course, bad decisions are not a thing. But according to the economist, that's bad. Our brains can be inflexible when using this mental accounting. And that's something that we canter against with practicing flexibility. We're going to do mental accounting based on where the money is going, not where it came from. So we've got this big pile of money, and we got the departments. The big car company does not care, right? Marketing and sales is the only one that makes the money, but human resources doesn't bring money into the business. But the big car company doesn't care, right? Where the money came from does not matter. Where it's going does. So we make buckets, and we will talk about buckets this month, and next month we will talk a lot about buckets, which are just categories or departments or whatever you want to call them. Your brain is already really good at mental accounting. Let's just leverage it. Let's just change it a little bit. So instead of mental accounting by where the money came from, again, belaboring it a little bit, but giving it a job based on where it's going. So what we're talking about is kind of a modified system. We're going to try to combine the best out of the three systems that we talked about. And that was the pre-made prescriptive budget. That was the freestyle budgeting, sort of not budget. And then the zero-based budget. From the structure, we're going to take structure and zero-based. We're going to take structure from the zero-based budget and the pre-made budget. Structure is important because it's how we carry forward our goals, priorities, values, all things that you guys talked about at the very top. Structure is how we communicate with future versions of ourselves. So if I'm making my budget today, it's like telling Hannah all this month, like what my priorities are for this month. By the way, the priority for this month is tires on the car. Flexibility, we're going to take from that freestyle system. We have to allow for flexibility. We have to have the perfect amount of structure and flexibility. Flexibility allows for change, because change, even if you don't change, something around you will. The cost of eggs, for example, or gas, right? So we have to allow for flexibility. It has to be individualized. We're taking that from the zero-based budgeting system. Customization is allowed for and expected. It's how we build these systems. If you want them to work, they have to be customized. We're using iterative development, and that comes from software development. And basically, it's plan, implement, evaluate, repeat. So we're changing the system just a little bit each time. We're doing that intentionally, and by intentionally changing the system, it gets easier and easier and faster every cycle. And we're having a mindset change, which is what I'm hoping you take away from this, is that spending is expected and not restricted. We are integrating this into our lives. So all spending is part of a larger whole, goal, or purpose, right? So just like human resources and marketing are both departments of service to a larger corporation, all of your spending needs to be integrated into your life as part of a whole goal or purpose. We are future focused, and that comes from the zero-based budget. So basically, over time, what happens is as we build these systems, the right now gets easier and easier and easier and easier. When our right now gets easier, that frees up bandwidth to begin thinking about the future. And usually that's just like next month. But then very shortly, like next month gets easy. And now we're thinking about next year and 10 years from now. So less stress and more bandwidth. Easy mode for the month that we're in. Leverages mental accounting is something you're already good at. We are fitting a system to fit your life and not the other way around. And I'm going to repeat this many, many times. We are not evaluating if you are using the system correctly. We are evaluating if the system is working for you. I'm going to repeat that. We are not evaluating whether you're doing it right. We are evaluating whether the system is working for you. And that's a modified ZBB. Modified. We're not calling it's not a strict zero-based budget just because of like the rules that go into zero-based budget is typically it's suitable for large corporations and government bodies, but we are modifying it to be a smaller system that you can use in your own house. To do that, we need to do something called naturalistic observation. Okay. So think about, come with me in your imagination. Well, let's go out into the jungle and there's a scientist there. And we're going to assume that the scientist is a good scientist. And the scientist is observing a wild animal. Would the scientist be trying to change the wild animal's behavior? Kayla Canterbury says no. Why not? Chloe says no. Why not? Maria says no. Yeah. Michaela Canterbury says because she's observing. She's doing her job. Let's say that the scientist has, Hazel says no, because they're there to just do an observation. Yeah. So let's say the scientist is observed for a little while. Janine says not sure. And the scientist has put together what they think is the wild animal's normal or baseline. And the scientist sees that the animal has deviated away from that baseline or normal. Would the scientist try to change the wild animal's behavior back again? Gail Canterbury says, don't think so. Chloe says, no. Why not? Yeah, because she's there to observe, right? Observe and take notes. And who knows, maybe the assumption that the scientist made, yeah, the behavior evolved for a reason, says Chloe. Like, so the scientist can probably get a little bit curious, like, oh, that's weird. Well, I wonder why that happened. Curiosity is great. Maybe the assumption that the scientist made about what normal for this animal is and is not, maybe that was an incorrect assumption. So they get to have a chance to correct that. Let's, oh, I have a slide. Oh, no, I don't. Go back. Let's say that the scientist observes that the wild animal has eaten a large quantity of something disgusting. Would the scientist write down in their notebook, oh my God, that's the stupidest, grossest animal I've ever seen. So disgusting and just gross and stupid. I can't believe it. Ew. Is that what the scientist would write in their notebook?
Definitely not.
Why not, Brianna?
Because it's unprofessional.
It's judgy. It's middle school girl judgy. Yeah, right?
It's not gross for a monkey.
No. It's just what happened, right? What would the scientist actually write in their notebook?
I mean, they're using natural like behaviors that like they regularly use. So I feel like that would be like them as scientists already know like these behaviors. So they're probably just like reanalyzing in a sense, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Yeah. The scientists are just gonna make note of the behavior, but no judgment, right? Not gonna have any like moralistic evaluation of the animal. Ew, like none of that. So why am I talking about a wild animal and a scientist? Is because I want you to be both. I want you to do your wild animal thing. Just keep doing that. And in the world that we're talking about right now, that means spending behavior. Just keep doing your normal spending. But I also want you to be the scientist. I want you to observe your behavior from a distanced and non-judgmental perspective. And that's the only way that we get to notice patterns, and noticing patterns is how we build systems. Scientist doesn't try to change the wild animal's behavior, so I'm going to ask you not to try to change your behavior. If the animal does change its behavior, the scientist doesn't change it back again, and the scientist doesn't judge. Scientist's job is to observe and take notes. So, observe and take notes. What do you think I'm leading up to here?
Take notes.
Take notes. The least favorite topic. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said I'm taking notes.
Yeah. We're talking about tracking. We're going to talk about that in 1 second. Purpose of observing our behavior is to be objective, non-emotional, and non-judgmental as much as possible. Look for patterns. Here's another thing that your brain is already good at. Our brains are fantastic about looking for patterns. Too good, actually. We see patterns where there aren't any. We can, using those patterns, we can predict future reactions and behaviors, and we can begin experimenting, interrupting, and that is what we need to build a system, a money system. We evaluate those interventions and strategies. Again, not you. We are not evaluating you. Tracking, hooray. We're finally at tracking. Aren't you excited to talk about tracking? Nobody's excited to talk about tracking. So the way that we're going to do tracking, the way I teach tracking is very different than probably anything that you've heard before. There's two main purposes to tracking this specific way. We're going to talk about the second most important one first. The second most important reason to track your spending is to gather the data. And that's why I'm talking about, like, try not to change your spending behavior. If you start changing your spending behavior as you track, you're going to get back messed up data. If you're after nice, clean data that a future version of yourself can look back at, try not to change your spending. Do people change their spending behavior? Absolutely, but try not to. I'm going to ask you to track 3 things: the date, how much you spent, and what you spent it on. Easy peasy. So like July 1st, $20 gas. Easy peasy. So in a perfect world where you have unlimited bandwidth and time, I'd like you to write down what you spend literally as you spend it. Does that actually happen? No, because you don't have unlimited bandwidth or time. In reality, I would like you to track what you spend as close to the time that you spend it as possible. And I don't know what that looks like for you. And I frequently get asked, but like, how often, Hannah? I'm like, I don't know. We are building a system to fit your life. So sometimes that means daily, right? And sometimes that means morning, and sometimes it means night, or like whenever. And sometimes it means every other day, that kind of a thing. So we are trying to track what you spent as close to the time that you spend it as possible. And the rhythm of what that looks like looks very different for each of you. The second purpose of tracking, and this is the most important one, is building the routine itself. So because we are more concerned about building routine than data, although the data is important, I'm going to ask you to not go back in time. So I'm going to tell you a story. 1,000 years ago, when I began tracking for myself, I bought a tiny, and apologies to any of you that I've already heard this story. I bought a tiny, tiny little notebook with its own cute little pen. And for 2 whole days, I was the best you have ever seen at tracking. Like, I'm holding up the grocery store line. I'm writing down what I spent as I spent it for 2 days. It was a machine. It was amazing. Guess what happened on the morning of the 3rd day? Just gonna drink tea till someone answers. Chloe, what do you think I did?
You were burnt out, so you stopped.
Yeah, Hazel says the same thing. I was exhausted. You guys are giving me far more credit than I need. I had no memory that I had ever been tracking. It was gone from my brain. Didn't ever remember having done it. It was just gone from my brain. 2 days after that, I found the cute little notebook beat to heck at the bottom of my purse. I was like, oh, hello. It's supposed to be tracking. Okay. So we could look at this two different ways. Hannah's bad at tracking is one way to look at this. What's the other way to look at this little scenario? Oh. Are we evaluating Hannah or are we evaluating the system? Yeah. So the feedback I got from that experiment was tiny little notebook does not work for Hannah. Could that work for somebody else? Absolutely. Tiny little notebook in my life? No, thank you. So for years, I was on little notebooks. I don't have one handy. Little tiny notebooks, like 3x5 notebooks. So that worked great. So I evaluated the system and not myself. And when I dropped those 2 or 3 days in the middle there, I'm going to encourage you to not go back in time. Data be damned at this point, right? We are building a routine, so don't go back in time. Don't start as of this morning. Don't start as the first of the month. Start as of right this second. If, when you skip or forget, don't go fill in the blanks. As you build this routine, you will begin to know when you can go, how long you can go back in time, and you'll get more and more comfortable with this. But because we are building routine, it's important to not go back in time. And everybody starts and stops. Literally everybody. And most of the time, right about now, someone has just said in their head, "Nuh-uh, Hannah, I'm the one. I'm the one, Hannah. I'm going to start tracking and never stop." You're going to forget. You're going to stop. It's going to get too cumbersome. Don't worry about it. Just restart. Change a little bit about your system, whatever system you were using to track it. Change a little bit and then restart. Because what we've just found out, like if you start and stop, you've found out something that probably doesn't work. Tiny little notebook for Hannah, not working. Again, are we evaluating you, or are we evaluating the system? I just gave it away. We're evaluating the system. I just gave it away. What logistics work and what don't. And we are after 80%. You will never be 100% perfect at this. It's not going to happen. 80% is awesome. 80%, we got a lot of good data. It's a nice routine. It's probably moving along pretty good. It's probably pretty easy, but it'll also never be a habit, and it shouldn't be. Habits are way too fast. Habits, we have no thought when it comes to things like which peanut butter you choose or how to drive a stick shift. We don't want this to be a habit because we want this to be a little bit thoughtful, a little bit slow. And that's why I'm using the word routine and not habit. Trackers are ugly. This is one of my trackers. Candace might not still be on, but you can see Candace's name down here. For some reason, I was paying Candace $75 for something. I don't remember what that was, maybe lunch or something. Trackers are ugly to begin with. They're a hot mess. I have people who come back, or we start tracking, they come back with sticky notes all over the place, like on everything, and they've just gathered them all together. 3x5 cards, the back of progressive envelopes, all sorts of things, right? Like it doesn't matter what your tracker looks like. We're just focusing on writing it down. And yes, your bank account, your bank probably is keeping track of things, like you've got a record. But there's something about writing it down, either on paper or on like electronically. There's something about writing it down that makes it real to us. And yeah, absolutely. Everybody on the planet has their bank keeping track of them, of their expenses. And some of them even categorize, but that doesn't work because those aren't your categories. If that worked, if just having your bank make note of everything for you, if that worked, we'd all be fine. And we're not fine. So there's something really weird to our brains about physically writing it down and making a note. So let's see how we're doing that time. Okay. So what do you think you'll notice as you start tracking your spending without trying to change your spending? drinking tea again, which means it's your turn to talk. Not necessarily Chloe, but also Chloe. But okay, I'm just going to sit here and drink my tea. What do you think you'll notice as you start tracking your spending without trying to change your spending?
I'll have more spending money.
Oh, tell me more about that.
I don't know. I was just trying to guess. Help you.
Ooh, no, I like that. Yeah, that's awesome, Brianna.
And like savings. I feel like that'll
Yeah.
support it. Yeah,
Great.
like exactly. Savings for like future stuff, like possibly my tire breaks, then I have that extra money because I'm using it effectively instead of inefficiently.
Yep. Yep. We're more aware. We observe patterns. Awareness without judgment. I have swag now. I don't know if you can see this a little stretchy band on it that says awareness without judgment. That's important, right? Rocket says be obsessed. Wasting my time with tracking. Why would it be a waste of your time, Rocket?
Because I didn't change any habit. I just track without doing any action.
Yep. And you have no reason to trust me on this. Like, I'm asking you for a trust I haven't earned yet, but just tracking your spending changes things. Even if I say don't change, you're going to change. But I don't want people to intentionally change. Chloe says biggest spending categories are, yep, you might notice where you're spending money. Yep. Tracking spending sucks. I'm not going to lie to you. Right? It's uncomfortable, especially at the beginning. And even if I say try not to change your spending behavior, it just naturally changes over time. If you do nothing, if you never make a budget in your entire life and you track this way by building a routine and not being judgmental, things will change. Maria says my husband really likes to write it all down, the money we have, spend, borrow, and track. Yeah, he's gotten himself into a tracking routine. Yep. Michaela Canterbury says observing patterns. Yes, pattern recognition. Once we know a pattern, you can choose to interrupt it if you want to. You can choose to find a system around it to either build, if it's a good pattern, how do we make this part of our system? Oh, look, it's like Hannah 2 years ago, knew that. What patterns do you think you'll find? You might notice where you're spending money. Any other patterns you think you might find as you track?
Kind of a weird one that I've noticed, but like watching where my spending is going often ties into like the other routines that I've set for myself. So I spend more money on fast food when my sleep routine hasn't been good because I'm not getting up to prep my lunch.
Fantastic. Absolutely. That is an amazing pattern. And Chloe could choose to interrupt that pattern or not. That we just oh, there's a pattern. Neat. That's a fantastic pattern. Oh, here we go. What about tracking are you dreading? Spending money where it's not needed, Hazel says. Let's talk about that go ahead, say that again.
The commitment of continuing to do it.
Let's talk about both of those real quick. So wants versus needs spending, like trying to make choices based on wants versus needs, does not work. You can stop using the wants versus needs thing now. In other classes, or I'm going to give you the opportunity to schedule a 30-minute session with me. We can talk about what I teach instead of the wants versus needs, but we use the wants versus need things to make good or non-emotional decisions. There are very few words in the English language that are more emotional than the words want and the word need. We are using emotional language to try to make unemotional decisions, and it does not work. You're not doing it wrong. This is a bad system. We can't take our entire lives and chunk it up into wants and needs. Bad spending, good spending. It doesn't work like that. And if we're going from this place of non-judgment, all of your spending is your normal spending, right? It does not matter Like what qualifies as a want and a need is highly debatable. We could have a debate about it right now. Like I've told the story before. I'm sure if some of you have been in the class where I told the story about the water bottle, right? We couldn't decide in that, like whether a freaking $3 water bottle, whether this is a want or a need. So focusing on wants and needs will not serve you. If you're not doing the tool wrong, it's a bad tool. And then Brianna, what did you just say? I went off on a rant and I got distracted. Brianna, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the commitment of it, like
Okay.
instead of being impulsive. I guess that's what I mean. Like when you're impulsive, you end up not following your budget, and then you just get frustrated and you lose your commitment to it.
Right. That's why we're not starting with a budget. Like who's talking about budgets? We're talking only about tracking. We're not setting out expectations at all. We're not even setting out buckets or categories. So I want to keep this fairly small. And when you start and stop, just restart. So there is no great big commitment here, even though we kind of feel like there should be, like this is a big deal. It's not. You just restart. It's okay. Just restart, 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 restart. It's okay. What we're wanting to build is the routine, and you can't build a routine if you're holding yourself to some superhuman commitment. And your life is busy. I don't know you, but I'm going to guess that you're right, that your life is busy. And building a system that fits into that busyness takes some time. So the commitment, maybe instead of the commitment being to track, maybe the commitment is to be gentle with yourself as you track. Did that help at all for either Hazel or Brianna or anybody else? Let's do maybe one more and then we'll go to Q&As. Let's do this one. Do you think it will be easy or difficult to track?
For me, I think it will be hard. It'll be difficult because like just finding the time to do the tracking. I
Let's talk
see
about
time
that.
management
Yeah.
being an issue because I'm a very, very, very busy person.
Yeah, I don't doubt. Yeah, Robin, we all, I mean, I'm not minimizing, but yeah, you're busy. So
We're all busy.
how long, let's say you buy something, how long do you think it would physically take to write that down on a piece of paper?
It depends on like my day because every day is a little different. Like if I'm at home and shopping online, it would be very easy because I would be sitting here and I could like write it down on a notebook. But if I'm like on the weekend and I'm like running a bunch of errands and buying things at every place, like I might forget to write that down when I get home.
Right. But the actual act of writing it down, how long do you think that takes?
Oh, just a few minutes. Maybe a few seconds.
Take about 10 seconds. So I have like before you start tracking, here's like a fun little pre-tracking game. Anytime you see a receipt anywhere in the world, like you've purchased something or somebody else has purchased something, Janine says she's a busy mom. Yeah, absolutely. A receipt anywhere in the world, your brain goes 10 seconds. That's it. 10 seconds. What happens is you're confirming to your brain over and over again. Anytime you purchase something, anytime you see a receipt, anytime your brain just goes 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds. You're kind of brainwashing yourself. Like it helps. If it's my voice, fantastic. Like what happens is eventually our brains go, oh, this only takes 10 seconds, right? Because especially when we're busy, our brains do not understand time very well. Like, have you ever there's the box sitting there and you've been putting off moving the box for 2 years and then you move the box and it takes 30 seconds because your brain will tell you, oh, I don't have time for that, right? Under stress, our brains don't accurately estimate time. You talk about time management, and this plays into things like procrastination too. It's like our brains don't, you're not doing anything wrong. This is not a choice or a decision, but stressed out brains don't understand time very well. Everything takes all the time and also none of the time. And the brains don't understand, our brains don't do this very well when we're stressed out. Good observation. Thank you all for that. So we have about 6 minutes left. Here's what's coming up. So I'm going to, at the end of today, hopefully, I'm going to send you this recording. I'm also going to include a quiz if you want a certificate of completion for giggles. And I'm also going to include the sign up for next month's class, which is on the 9th again at exactly the same time. And we're going to be talking about budgeting. We're going to basically review a little bit of what we talked about tracking. We're going to talk about buckets and categories, and then we're going to move on to just a very sort of cursory overview of how I teach budgeting. And I will send you guys that, and I'll send that to you before I make it public. Let's see. Oh, I'm also going to include here, but I also include in the email, an invitation to get on my calendar for a 30-minute quick win. So basically you tell me a thing and I will teach you a tool. That's not the right one. Hang in there with me, folks. Here comes that link, but that will also be in your email. So we have some time, and I'm not going to kick anybody out at 11:30. But what questions do you have for me about what we've talked about or other stuff?
I'm going to sign off, but this was a good refresher and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michaela. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Have a good
Hannah.
day. Thank you. No questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Let's see. Okay, so if there's no questions, like, what do you want to hit me in the face for? Like, what did I say today? You're like, no, Hannah, it's not going to work. Jerk. Thank you, Janine. Thank you for being here.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Chloe. Yeah.
When you're tracking, are you tracking in categories? Or are you just running your list, just writing everything down in map?
People do it different ways. To begin with, no categories. So this is just the beginning. Like, this is step 1 of 42 steps. So pretty quickly, if my clients make it to 80%, when my clients make it to that 80% proficiency mark, I add stuff on. So this is just like the first little baby step. Personally, I track in my categories, but I have clients who have a system for tracking, like they just write everything down, and then later on they move it into the categories. And so it just depends, because like we talked about, we are building an individualized system. So it depends on what works for them. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
What other thoughts or questions do you have, Maria, Michaela, Chloe, Robin, Brianna? We're down to 1 Michaela. Oh no. Okay. Someone inspiring on the yeah, and I'll send you the recording. Yes, that sounds, all of that is good, Michaela. What else, folks? More questions, Chloe? I love your questions.
No, this is helpful. It's helpful to hear budgeting from different perspectives. So my partner and I have been like working really hard to get onto a budget that makes sense, and it's challenging. We're hoping to get married within this year. And so we've been doing a lot of work with like budgeting together and joint income and what that looks like. And it's been hard to get aligned, I think, because I come from a household where my parents did budget together and they had a joint income, and he has a mom who suffered some abuse with income from the partner, and so he's like, I don't want to do joint finances.
Yep, everybody's going to be trying to protect themselves, and that's totally normal. And everybody, I love what people say, Hannah, how do you do it when the partners come from a different background? I'm only like, you mean like everyone? Because everybody comes from a different background. Or what do you do if their incomes are different? I'm like, that's everyone. Everyone has different incomes and different backgrounds, and finding that gel between the two of them where everybody feels safe and everybody feels protected, that takes some work. So you and husband to be should do the sign up for a quick win. so the two of us can talk. The three of us can talk. But it's yeah, those are not great conversations, but they're worth it, and they can be made easier. But I love premarital folks trying to get it together before they get married. I'm like, yes, oh my God, yes. Because I work with folks on the other end of the spectrum too, folks who are recovering from divorce and separation. And there's almost always some like financial abuse going on in there. And at the very least, financial hurt. And I'm glad that you guys are making a point to talk to each other now. Beautiful. I have about 5 more minutes. I don't like to kick people off, but I do want to make sure that if you have more questions that you can ask them. Of course, you can always email me. Yeah, this is Chloe, this was supposed to be the hybrid class. Is this something that you think that you could take and use with the folks that you are in service of?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, Robin can kind of speak to that too, because she does the work a little bit more on the ground with folks. But my staff tracks their spending from our like corporate budget. So it's cool. Like it would be cool to see that kind of transform into their own.
Yep.
But yeah, I think this is super applicable for staff. That's who
Wonderful.
we work with. It's people who are at that in that crisis mode at the end of the month where it's like I got more month than I got money. And
Yep. Yeah, it sounds so simple to take care of that, the more month than money thing. That's just like stop spending. Like that doesn't work.
No.
If that was going to work, we'd all be great. It doesn't work. That didn't help with my hair at all, did it? Yeah, I'll pass along all the stuff for you. Anything else that you folks need from me? Like I said, I have about 3 more minutes. I don't want to cut anybody off. I saw Maria, and then she disappeared.
I'm gonna hop off. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for being here, Chloe. Your contributions are always wonderful. Hi, Maria. You're muted, dear. You're muted. You're muted. There you are.
Yeah. One of my clients came to my house because sometimes I do process like organ food bag, and I put down like 11:30. They have to be here, and she came, and
That was 11:30, man.
yeah. And I told her
Dang.
for a second, and I gave to her what I needed to give to her, and I came back.
Good.
Thank you so
Good.
much.
Thank you so much for being here. Did you have any, what questions do you have? Or
I love this budgeting topics because always we're, every day we have to think about budget.
every day? Yep.
Yeah, and everything is going like up, but our salary is kind of the same for a long time. And
Yeah.
we have to do budgeting in our house and even at our jobs.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
need a plan. So thank you so much for being here, Maria.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
I have to leave. Clients are waiting for me outside.
Yes, you're very popular. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Robin, I see you're
Okay,
unmuted.
thank you.
Thank you very much for being here, Brianna.
Bye.
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 Bye, Robin. Have a good day.
Yeah, I just actually wanted to say something really quick.
Yeah.
This
Yes.
class is coming at a perfect time. Like I love that that you have this tracking one, and we'll do budgeting next month. I'm getting ready to get everything in place to purchase a house.
Ooh, fun.
So budgeting is
Yeah.
like the top of the list.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be. Yes, it is. I'm glad you're doing that instead of just freewheeling through it, because this is a big
Yeah, because
deal.
I've got to figure
But-
out like what can we afford for a mortgage payment,
Yeah.
and that'll determine like what price house we can get.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you're going into this with some clarity instead of just like, well, the mortgage company said they'd give us this,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
might
So let
not
me buy a
be.
$700,000 home.
Yep. That might not be the best choice, but it might be. It might be the right choice. So You are welcome to put yourself and your partner on my calendar for that quick win. And we
no
can talk
partner. I'm
about
buying
that.
a house with my daughter.
Well, you're buying a house with your, okay, so you and daughter can put yourself on that for a quick win phone call. I would love, love, love to talk to you folks about that. So
All right. Are you located in Portland or are you somewhere else?
I'm in Salem.
You're in Salem. Okay. I
Yeah.
couldn't remember. I thought that's right. You were
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about
close.
your birthday party at the park.
Yes, I had a park in Albany. Yes,
Yeah.
but it's all I-5. So, well, thank you very much for your time, Robin. I need to head off, but I will send this recording and all the extra stuff along probably towards the end of the day. So,
All right. Thank you.
thank you. Have a good day.
You too.